Everything you or any other human being who's ever lived has loved, hated, experienced has been on this tiny rock in the middle of a possibly infinite area of space. Besides those few who stepped on the moon, or supposedly stepped on the moon, depending on what you believe. And just as the moon landing is a conspiracy theory, even the shape of the Earth has now become its own theory, or its own area of debate. Is the Earth a globe, as mainstream science and the majority of the population will say, or is it in fact a flat plane? That's the question that has come about a lot more recently and has been circulating on the deep interwebs for several years now. There's even a society based on providing evidence that this is the case, known as the Flat Earth Society, who coincidentally have members all around the globe, according to one of their slogans. Now, it's a very interesting question and a very vital one, it seems, because surely it's of the utmost importance to know at least our home in its entirety, at least as far as we can understand. And the shape of the Earth, it seems, should be something very simple to determine. We have pictures of the Earth from outer space showing it's round. We have photographs, we have video, we have footage from the International Space Station showing its curves, and we have various forms of visualable, if that's a word, evidence. The fact that ships disappear bottom first on the horizon, over the horizon, as opposed to just getting smaller and smaller and smaller until they disappear from sight. So the only way we could really determine that the Earth is round would be to go into space for ourselves and look at it with our own eyes. And it's fair to say, from my own point of view, that I don't know, because I've never done that. Mainly because I'd struggle to breathe in space, and also I'm scared of heights. Or at least falling out of them. But we need to look at the strength of evidence here. For instance, gravity. Now, it's true, we don't understand gravity totally. Why it exists, how it exists, what it means. But we know and can visually measure its effects. Now, gravity is determined by the mass of a celestial object. Well, it's determined on the size of an object. Every object with mass has a gravitational force, but it's generally only really visually effective on very, very large bodies such as planets and stars and galaxies, black holes, etc. Now, the way we can see that gravity works is that it pulls everything into the centre of the mass. So if you have a huge expanse of matter that's pulled into another larger mass of matter, the way that gravity works by pulling it all into the centre of that mass would inevitably create a spherical object, because all the mass is centred around that midpoint. Now, if the Earth was flat, that means that gravity must be equally distributed across the whole surface. Otherwise, as we say, it would all be condensed into that circular object. So everything we understand about gravity would have to be questioned. Perhaps gravity doesn't exist the way we think it is. Very possible. Very likely, depending on the fact that we don't really understand a percentage of the universe. However, are we so wrong that we can completely dismiss everything we know about gravity, as opposed to tweaking it slightly when new evidence suggests that it needs to be tweaked. Also, if you look up at the sky at night, you'll see clouds if you're in England, but let's suppose there's no clouds. If you look up into the sky at night, what do you see? Well, you see a lot of dots. Fair enough, of indeterminate shape. But one of the prevailing things in the night sky, of course, is the moon. What shape is that? It's round, isn't it? Now, of course, we only ever see one side of the moon. Granted. So it could be a disk, with that face always facing the Earth. Now, the moon is tidally locked, which means it rotates at the same speed in which it orbits the Earth, so we only ever see that one side of the face. And the reason the other side is called the dark side of the moon isn't because it's always shaded, it's because it's dark in the sense that we don't know much about it. It's knowledgeably dark, if you know what I mean. So the argument could be had then that the moon is in fact a disk. It's not tidally locked, it's just that that's the face we always see, because it doesn't rotate, it just always faces us. Okay, I'll accept that, fair enough, that's possible. But there are ways in which we can observe that celestial bodies rotate. Scientists and astrophysicists have done this many, many times. They know the speed of rotation of, say, Jupiter. They can see the great red spot on Jupiter as it rotates. They can see it move. And we can see the effects of the Earth rotating as the sun rises and falls. Which, of course, it doesn't rise and fall. The sun stays in position, the Earth rotates, which gives the illusion that the sun is arcing over it. You even have a somewhat decent telescope. You can look up at the stars and you can see the spherical nature of them. Now, if we were to use the argument, such as with the moon, that it is in fact a disk that's facing us to give the illusion that it's round, then that means that every star you can see and that scientists can see through the telescope is also that disk shape in the exact orientation facing us that gives it the appearance of being round, as opposed to out of the thousands and millions of stars we can see, billions even. Again, I'm not an astrophysicist, I don't know, I don't care, but a lot of them, we can see that all of them, from how we can observe them on Earth, appear round, which means that not one of those happens to be twisted in a way that it just looks like a line, which it would appear if it was a disk that was rotated sidewards. We would see just a line, a one-dimensional version of that two-dimensional disk. But they all happen to be faced towards Earth in that way that makes it look round. Now, either that means that it's insanely lucky that they're all orientated that way, or it means that they're all spheres, and whichever way they're rotated makes no difference, it always looks like a sphere, which is what we see when we look out. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. I don't pretend to understand what's out there. Nobody can pretend to know half of what's out there, or how everything works. Even we don't understand how our minds work, how our brains work. Don't worry about what's out there. We're not going to get it for a while, if ever. But most importantly, I think, is if we are to make the argument that the Earth is flat, that means that every photograph ever taken of the Earth or of other stars or planets, and every piece of footage we've seen which shows the curvature of the Earth from the ISS, and even the fact that the ISS exists and orbits the Earth, which it wouldn't do if it was flat, because the gravity wouldn't allow that to happen, we must conclude that all of this has been fabricated, because otherwise the Earth must be round, because everything we can see, every photograph, every video we've seen shows us that it's round. The only way anybody can certify 100% that the Earth is round is by going into space themselves and looking at it through their own eyes, which of course isn't accessible to most of us, especially those with the fear of falling from great heights or of rockets exploding. So of course these theories come about that all of this evidence has been fabricated, similar to how many people believe that the US government faked the moon landing so as to beat Russia to the moon. That's, to me, more understandable, more believable, but still not decisive enough for me. The question is, why would this be fabricated? And the answer most people give is to keep us as sheep following one certain belief system, so that the elite, or whatever they call them now, can control us as a species for whatever reason I don't understand. Now, there is evidence to suggest that the Earth is flat. Yeah, I'll accept that. And there is quite good evidence in some aspects. But there is nowhere near enough evidence to overrule the belief that the Earth is round. When we look at the moon and we can see it's round, and we look at all the other planets and stars and see that they're round, why then should we suggest that the Earth is the only one that's flat? Especially when we can explain why they're round, because of the centre of gravity around them, or within them. Unless, of course, these explanations are completely wrong or fabricated, and all the pictures of all the planets that we can see are also fabricated. But as I say, if you look through a telescope, even a half-decent one, you can see the spherical nature of all these bodies in the universe. We can see that they're round. And again, the only possible explanation is that they are, in fact, disks that happen to be in the right orientation to Earth, so that they appear round. But given the numbers, it's also incredibly, incredibly unlikely. But, of course, not impossible. This is just my understanding of how I perceive it. So, I'm not saying that the Earth is definitely round. I can't say that. I've never been to space, and even if I had been to space and looked at the Earth, it could all be an illusion created by the light from the sun, I don't know, acting strangely on the planet and giving it the effect through my eyes of its being round. It might not be. It might be a star. It might be a quadrilateral triangle. It might be a prism. I don't know. But from what we can see, and from what every other human being can witness, as far as we know, evidence strongly suggests it is a globe. To me. If you believe the Earth is flat, unlike many people, I'm not going to say you're stupid, you're an idiot, you believe anything you're told. You just interpret the information in a different way to me. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of people who like to jump on bandwagons to appear popular or to appear at least different from the mainstream. And many people, I believe, who say they believe in these conspiracy theorists will only say so to others. Inside themselves, they may not believe it as strongly as they say. So if you really believe that the Earth is flat, again, you could be completely right. I might be completely wrong. But look inside and say, do I really believe that? And this isn't only for this theory. This is for any belief anybody holds. Look inside and say, do I really believe that, or do I say I believe that? To make myself feel better, or to make myself look better in front of whoever. Because the worst thing you can do is to lie to yourself. You can lie to others. Ultimately, it might not be a good thing, it might not end up well, but you can. But it becomes very damaging when you begin lying to yourself. Because then you will become lost and you will become confused. So be at least honest with yourself. If you honestly do believe that the earth is flat, great. Absolutely great. You may be completely right. It depends on how you interpret the data. But please, regardless of whether you believe the earth is flat or round, please do not go to people on the other side and begin abusing them or insulting them because they have a different understanding. Because that's not the way. To me, every piece of evidence and every piece of logic that I have suggests to me strongly that the earth is round, as it does to most other people. Perhaps you've interpreted the information differently. Perhaps you haven't seen all the information. Perhaps you've seen more information than I have and have come to a different conclusion. And if that's truly what you believe, then keep looking. And keep looking. And don't give up looking. But equally, don't close yourself off to the other possibility entirely. Because once you do that, you lose the ability to find the truth. All you do is you close off any information relating or suggesting that the other is true, and you never find it. You just keep backing up your own belief by taking positive evidence and rejecting negative evidence. And the illusion grows stronger and stronger. Having different beliefs are vital to finding new things. But make sure you believe them for the right reasons.